Beneath the freezing depths of the Sea of Okhotsk, where sunlight never reaches, a Cold War secret has slept undisturbed for decades. A place where even the smallest sound could trigger the disappearance of an American submarine under Soviet pursuit. During the Cold War, the world stood divided. On the surface were declarations. Beneath the ocean, a silent battle for survival. The Soviets hid a classified underwater communication cable in a so-called untouchable zone, carrying their most sensitive military orders. NSA reports revealed if the US could reach that cable, they could read the entire Soviet submarine strategy. But the Sea of Okhotsk was protected like Soviet homeland waters, surrounded by radar, warships, and a dense sonar net. And then the CIA made a bold decision to infiltrate the Soviet deep sea, right under their watch. They carried the most advanced wiretap device ever built, designed to operate without leaving a single trace. To reach the cable, the submarine had to slip through mines, rock formations, and Soviet sonar within only meters. So, how did the CIA infiltrate Soviet sovereign waters? And how did they plant a wiretap that remained undetected for 8 years? During the Cold War, the world was split between two superpowers, each terrified of the other's next move. Above the surface, diplomacy spoke loudly. But under the ocean, a silent battlefield was taking shape. The United States and the Soviet Union poured billions into nuclear submarines, ghost machines, capable of striking without warning. But even the deadliest submarines rely on communication. And the Soviets hid their most important orders through an undersea cable. That cable didn't just carry messages. It carried the Soviet Navy's heartbeat, every patrol, every maneuver, every nuclear command. NSA analysts realized something staggering. If the US could access that cable, they could read the entire Soviet submarine strategy. But there was a problem. The Sea of Okhotsk was considered a Soviet fortress, surrounded entirely by Soviet territory. To the Soviets, Okhotsk was untouchable. No foreign submarine had any reason or any hope to enter these waters. To reach that cable, the US would have to cross the most heavily monitored waters on the planet. But the intelligence promised was priceless. One wire could reveal an entire Navy's secrets. So, American intelligence faced a choice: risk everything or remain blind in the dark ocean. And in that moment, Operation Ivy Bells was born. A mission few believed was even possible. A mission that would take US submarines deep under the Soviet Union. This was not a battle of bullets, but of silence, pressure, darkness, and fear. And to pull it off, the CIA needed a special submarine, one unlike anything ever built. To infiltrate the Sea of Okhotsk, the United States needed something never seen before, a submarine capable of vanishing into absolute silence. Its name was USS Halibut, an aging vessel reborn as the CIA's ultimate covert weapon. On the outside, Halibut looked ordinary, but inside, it was a deep-sea laboratory engineered for espionage. Halibut carried high-resolution cameras capable of filming the ocean floor as clearly as daylight. It was fitted with advanced seabed sensors, magnetic detectors, flow meters, and vibration analyzers. But its most astonishing tool was a massive robotic arm, designed to dig, lift, clamp, and operate in total darkness. Halibut also carried a passive ghost sonar, a system that absorbed sound instead of emitting it. Its flat bottom platform allowed divers to exit safely, even under crushing deep-sea pressure. Inside Halibut, technicians and intelligence officers worked like scientists, analyzing every vibration of the ocean floor. Among the entire US fleet, only Halibut had this combination of cameras, robots, sonar, and deep-sea stability. Ironically, its age became its greatest advantage. Nobody expected an old ship to reach the heart of Soviet territory. But Halibut was far from perfect compared to modern Soviet submarines. It was painfully loud. A single dropped tool, a leaking pipe, even a drifting oil bubble could reveal its presence. At times the crew had to shut down everything: engines, pumps, lights, even their voices. One mistake, one sound would bring Soviet warships charging toward them. The ocean could crush them, but being discovered would be even worse. Everyone on Halibut knew that if they were captured, the world could slip into nuclear war. This mission wasn't just dangerous, it was nearly suicidal. And now, fully equipped, Halibut began its impossible journey into Soviet waters. Halibut was now approaching the Soviet Sea of Okhotsk, one of the most dangerous and heavily monitored waters on Earth. The first threat was the Soviet circular sonar net, a massive ring of underwater listening posts designed to detect any foreign submarine. Above Halibut, Soviet destroyers patrolled relentlessly, sweeping the sea with radar and active sonar. Below them was an entire network of Soviet hydrophones, underwater ears, calibrated to hear a submarine from miles away. And if that wasn't enough, the seabed itself was a labyrinth of trenches, cliffs, and sharp rock formations. To find the Soviet communication cable, Halibut deployed magnetic detection tools, scanning the seabed for even the faintest signature of metal. Once the cable's location was estimated, Halibut descended to nearly 150 meters, entering complete darkness. To avoid drifting, Halibut settled on the seafloor, anchoring itself like a statue in the mud. Then came the absolute rule: every system had to shut down. No sound could be louder than a whale's whisper. The crew barely breathed. Even a dropped wrench could bring Soviet warships racing toward them. At times Halibut scraped against rocks, and each scrape made every heart stop. Whenever it happened, they waited in total silence, listening for Soviet sonar searching for them. A single sonar return and Soviet destroyers would drop. Everything to hunt down the intruder. Slowly Halibut crawled along the seabed, mapping the invisible route where the cable should be buried. The crushing pressure outside was terrifying, but the pressure of being discovered was worse. Every meter mattered. Halibut moved inch by inch toward the suspected cable location. There was no margin for error. A wrong turn meant hitting a sensor or a mine. Every second felt like a countdown. The crew's nerves stretched thinner than the cable they were searching for. One more sonar sweep, one rock scrape, and the mission could end in disaster. And then their sensors caught something. A faint metallic line buried beneath the mud. The cable. What Halibut came to install was unlike anything the world had ever seen. A listening device, so advanced it could hear Soviet secrets without ever touching the cable. This device didn't cut the cable, didn't pierce it, and didn't disturb a single strand of metal. Instead, it used electromagnetic induction reading, tiny fluctuations in the cable's magnetic field, to recreate every Soviet conversation. It recorded everything without weakening the signal, even by 1%. To Soviet engineers, the line looked perfectly normal. The Soviets couldn't detect it, because it produced no electronic noise, no light, no vibration, nothing a sensor could pick up. It was engineered to survive salt corrosion, crushing pressure, freezing temperatures, and powerful ocean currents for nearly a decade. For 8 years, it listened like a silent ghost, never moving, never failing, never being found. What it captured was nothing short of priceless raw military communication, straight from the source. It recorded the schedules of Soviet ballistic missile submarines, the very heart of their nuclear strike capability. It captured how often their nuclear submarines patrolled, and where they were most vulnerable. It revealed parts of the Soviet navy's secret battle doctrine rules they believed would stay hidden forever. It even captured internal command discussions, real voices of Soviet officers speaking freely, never knowing they were being recorded. For NSA analysts, this was a strategic goldmine insight into the Soviet Navy at a level no spy had ever achieved before. It was the perfect intelligence source, invisible, silent, and endlessly valuable. For the CIA and NSA, this was the greatest underwater treasure of the entire Cold War. Among the many NSA analysts, there was one man who knew Ivy Bells better than almost anyone else. Ronald William Pelton. Pelton spoke fluent Russian and had full access to the technical blueprints, procedures, and data streams of the Ivy Bells operation. But behind the scenes, Pelton's life was collapsing, crushing debt, bankruptcy, and the loss of his job at the NSA. With nowhere left to turn, Pelton made a decision so dangerous, it seemed unthinkable. He walked straight into the Soviet embassy in Washington, D.C., and offered to sell America's deepest undersea secret. Pelton wasn't a spy. He had no tradecraft, no covert skills, just the terrifying knowledge of everything Ivy Bells had achieved. And for only $35,000, he sold one of the greatest intelligence breakthroughs in American history. The Soviets believed him immediately because Pelton knew details no normal employee could ever access. But why didn't the NSA catch him sooner? Because financial oversight was shockingly weak, and background monitoring barely existed. Pelton exploited a massive security flaw. No one checked why a man drowning in debt still remembered top-secret mission data. With a single conversation, Pelton revealed the location of the cable, the method of tapping, and the exact technology Halibut used. Within months, Soviet divers were deployed to the Sea of Okhotsk, searching for the mysterious American device. And eventually, they found it, the tap that had been listening to them for 8 silent years. The moment they retrieved it, Ivy Bells, the greatest underwater spy operation of the Cold War, was officially dead. Pelton's betrayal didn't just end a mission. It collapsed an entire era of American intelligence dominance. When the Soviets realized something was wrong with their undersea cable, the KGB launched one of the most secretive counter-operations of the Cold War. They deployed a classified deep-diving vessel built not for war, but for discovering whatever the Americans had hidden beneath the Sea of Okhotsk. As the divers descended, visibility dropped to almost zero. Every meter brought them closer to whatever had been watching them for years. They scanned the ocean floor, moving slowly along the cable line, searching for anything that didn't belong. Then, one diver spotted it, a metallic shape clamped onto the cable, half buried but unmistakably foreign. As they approached, they realized the device was far more advanced than anything the USSR had imagined. It had a layered pressure-resistant shell engineered to survive crushing depths for nearly a decade. And hidden within the casing were anti-tamper systems designed to destroy the device if anyone tried to open it. More shocking was the internal memory, capable of storing hundreds of hours of Soviet military conversations. For the divers, it felt like a punch to the gut. America had been listening to them for 8 long years. KGB analysts concluded one thing: the CIA had achieved a level of underwater espionage they were not prepared for. The discovery sent shockwaves through Soviet command. If America could tap this cable, what else were they capable of? The very foundation of Soviet strategic confidence cracked. Nothing under the ocean felt safe anymore. And with the tap removed, the greatest covert operation of the Cold War came to an abrupt, silent end. 8 years of flawless espionage ended in a single moment of discovery. Some documents have finally been declassified, yet much of the technical detail remains locked away in classified vaults. Today, some documents have finally been declassified, yet much of the technical detail remains locked away in classified vaults. Historians now call Ivy Bells the most daring underwater intelligence mission ever attempted by the United States. The operation changed how both the US and the Soviet Union viewed the submarine battlefield, forever altering their strategies in the deep. And although the original TAP was removed, the technology it pioneered continued to evolve quietly, relentlessly, and in the shadows. Today, modern navies use concepts inspired by Ivy Bells in programs still so classified, even their names remain unknown. Because beneath the waves, the intelligence war never truly ended. It simply became quieter. And every navy knows one truth: the greatest threats are the ones you can't see. Countless modern espionage systems owe their origins to that one ghostly device. The Soviets pulled from the seafloor. Even now, experts debate how many more undersea cables were tapped, and how many devices remain undiscovered. Because the ocean is enormous, and it guards its secrets well. So the question remains, in the darkest places of the world's oceans, how many devices are still listening right now, without anyone knowing?